Do you know?
Do you know what for me? Well,
I grew up just like any other kid in Newport, Newfoundland, around, on, and sometimes even in the water. I grew up wanting to be a sailor, just like my father. I eventually sailed on ships all over the world for 20 years. Then I met this guy, Greg Wells. He bought a 100-year-old church in my hometown. Along with a great team of people, there's some very special things happening there. My name is Ryan Gates. This is my hometown of Winterton, Newfoundland. This is Downey's Bank, Silly Cove Records podcast. All right, beard. Beard's in check. Beard looks good, right? No, not
camera,
really.
action.
Here we are. Here we are, episode 2 of the Downey's Bank podcast. Anyone from Winterton, don't need any introductions on either side of the screen here. Myself, my name is Ryan Gates, born and raised in Winterton, Newfoundland. And on the right-hand side of your screen, it'll be the lovely Miss Courtney Wicks, and she is the very first recording artist for what is now Silly Cove Records, based out of our hometown of Winterton, Newfoundland. So welcome to the show, Courtney.
Thank you for having me.
All right, fun. So that's the formalities. From now on, we're going to have fun.
Okay.
I can't think of anybody else, at least anybody who I'm connected to in recent years, and certainly recently, who I have more fun chatting with than you. We always seem to laugh. I don't know, like if we got charged per laugh, say if we were recording an album and they charged us based on how many times we laughed,
Definitely.
and this album would have cost $1 million. Like, no question.
Definitely. Yeah. Each of us can give it and take it. So like we're just but tormenting one another all the time.
But isn't that indicative of where we grew up, though? I think.
Yes.
And the people we grow up around.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone is like that.
I've always found people from home like everyone's got a. I don't want to call it a twisted sense of humor. It's not twisted, but it's a little much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You just don't pay attention to what people got to say. You go on about your day.
We have a bit of fun with it all, and I think that's what makes Winterton a little unique. And that's why people tend to be drawn to the place as well. I know whenever you see tourists come to visit and stuff, they're always taken up with the people and the dialect, and that's what I'm most afraid of tonight. Is that when I talk to people from home, I tend to speed it up a lot. Like I'm talking to Greg Wells, I'll slow it down at you slow it down at an entry level so these people can keep up. When you're talking to someone from home, you tend to dive in a bit fast. So for the one person from Belgium who has subscribed to the podcast, thank you. That's really cool. But you might have trouble keeping up tonight. So no, I want to talk to Courtney about basically right from the get-go, how this all started and how we all got tangled up and connected, because I don't want to date myself too much. I'm probably about 8-9 years older than you, maybe ish, something like that. Anyway, so we didn't travel in the same circles as children, basically, is what I'm getting at. So I remember you as a little girl singing around town at different things, the elementary school, Christmas concerts. You were much younger than me. Again, I was one of the older kids, and you were like in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, all that kind of stuff. But you were always singing the folk festivals, the ball field, whatever it was. You were always singing in churches and everything else. So I was always aware you were a good singer, and you come from a lot of musical background in your family. So just touch on that first before we get started. The family side of things.
So like on the broader side, pretty much everyone plays something and can sing or whatever. And I just feel like I was drawn into that at a really young age. Like we actually had a few family members come here a couple days ago, and like my 80-odd-year-old aunt was here playing the accordion, and I was playing guitar and piano. Dad was here, and my cousin was here playing bass, and it was just like, it was like a kitchen party. And I was actually saying, like, I remember being little and there'd be a party at the house, like on the weekend, and I'd just be in the bed and like, honestly, it'd be like thump, thump, thump. And I'm like, they're still going. And I was only a really young child, and like my kids won't sleep through anything. So I'm like, how would they ever survive?
Well, for starters, they didn't care, right?
Yeah.
They kids were raised a little bit differently, I think, than we tend to, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I'm sure it's the case because I got two, similar age to yours. We tend to suck them a lot more, I think, than we were sucked as kids.
Yes.
And I think that's created this situation where they need perfect quiet. They need that routine to go on. Like when it was time for me to go to bed, it was go to bed.
Go to bed. That's great.
That was the nighttime routine, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, and I mean, that's nothing on my mom or dad. I mean, but that was just the way it was with
No.
everybody. It was time to go to bed. Go to bed. You got your homework done? Yes, go to bed.
Bed. Yeah, and you went to bed, and it's not the case now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I feel like the music part of it just started at such a young age. I can't remember a time when there wasn't people playing around me.
Mm.
And yeah, so it started out like I was 5 or 6, and dad, started getting me to sing at different concerts. I think the first concert I ever sang in, or one of the first, was in Heart's Desire at a St. Patrick's Day concert, and I sang Red as the Rose. And I was, dad played for me, and that's where it started, I guess. And I just gradually picked up the guitar. I can't remember not playing the guitar. And then, like I said, all the family played, and my mom always had me involved in some kind of music lesson. And every Christmas, I got a new instrument to learn to play. And like sometimes growing up, I didn't want to continue. I think I was telling you this the other day. Like I really didn't want to do piano at times, or I didn't want to be involved in like voice lessons and stuff. And like mom and we would get in like rackets over. I'm like, oh, I'm not going, but she made me go. And like now I'm so thankful she did, because it kind of comes second nature to me, playing the piano or playing guitar or whatnot. And like if I didn't, continue it, I don't think I'd, be doing it today. So yeah, so just that's how it all started and where it began.
That's fair. So I think with that answer, I think is an optimum time to drop a little bit of news, because that's the beauty of this podcast. We're in full control of what we can do. The
Right.
beauty about Silly Cove Records is we can basically do whatever we want to do when it comes to how we roll this out. We're in full control. So one of the songs on your debut album, which is titled "Love Me" with Courtney Wicks, is "Red as the Rose." Now,
Yeah.
I wasn't there. I was there for the recording of most of your album. That later in that second day, I missed, because I had to leave. I had family stuff I had to take care of, so I missed that particular recording. So I didn't get to hear it until we were in the editing process, and Greg was sending me, back and forth, clips, and we're going over it, and he's saying, "What do you think of this? What do you think of that? I've tried this. I've tried that." And that process for me, mind you, was super interesting. I really enjoyed that aspect of working with Greg. I didn't even foresee that coming about. I mean, he's a Grammy Award-winning producer. What does he care what I think? But clearly, the man got to where he's to by having his ears open. Pardon the pun. But anyway, he sent me this clip of "Red as the Rose," and I was like, okay, right off the bat, right from the very first strum of the guitar, I said, that is not Courtney playing guitar. I knew that right off the bat, because like I told you when we chatted about the song afterward, and why I love the song so much is, to me, it captures a way of performing traditional Newfoundland music, which is what we grew up on. How we play it now today is completely different, right?
Yeah.
Because we've had all kinds of other influences, but the strum pattern that was used, pardon the pun, I'm brutal for puns, pardon the pun, it struck a chord with me, okay?
Right.
Because it just brought me back. I was like, boom, I was back sitting on the grass on the ball field, listening to Lee Brothers play guitar immediately as soon as I heard the very first chord. So that was like a goosebumps moment for me, which I've had lots of those since we started this process. But I was like, okay, that's obviously her dad.
Yeah.
And then the lyrics started. I was like, that's also definitely not Courtney.
Yeah.
Right. So walk me through how and why and why that song means so much to you. You touched on it a little bit, but I want you to dive into it and talk about that song in particular.
Yeah, so like I said, Dad taught me that one of the first songs, if not the first song he ever taught me to sing, and definitely the first one I ever performed. So a few months prior to doing the album, like it just came in my mind. I'm like, what a like sacred thing to be able to get Dad to record this song with me, and like I'll have it forever. Like it's, you know what I mean? So anyway, I was asking him like, come over, practice a song with me. It wasn't Red as Rose at that time. Like we didn't really know what he was going to do. And I asked Greg, and Greg was completely all for it and really supported it. So anyway, I kept saying like, "You coming over this week to practice?" "Yes, I'll be over sometime." I'm like, "Okay." Getting closer. "Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I won't do it." I'm like, "You gotta do it." Like, he's like, "Well, I'll see." So anyway, the week before, he's like, "No, I don't think so. Like, we haven't practiced." And I'm like, "I've only been asking you for like 2 or 3 months now to practice." And no, he said, "I'm not going to." So the day before, I kid you not, he calls. He's like, "Oh, now if we were to do one, what would we do?" I'm like, "You're going to ask me this today." So anyway, he comes over literally the night before. He's like, "What are we going to do?" I'm like, "Well, Red is the Rose. I think it's perfect. We both have sang it for a lifetime." I adapted it a little bit more to, my style with the picking and everything, but we compromised. We played it like in a key that was in between the both of us, and Dad like was playing the way that I grew up with him playing it. And he sang some verses and I sang, and we sang together on the chorus, and it came together really well, I gotta say. So I'm so happy that he agreed to do it in the end. And that's kind of how our relationship is anyway.
Fickle at best. No, and you know what? Like, there's so many for me, and I know I'm totally biased because I had my hands into this album as much as way more than I thought I was going to. It was really obscure how much I was involved in the whole process, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. But like, there's so many high points in this album, and when people get to hear it for the first time, I think they'll understand why. There are songs that are done completely differently than traditionally I've heard them done. Um, there's some fiddle arrangements on the album through some of the songs that are just fantastic by Rowan Sherlock, as we've mentioned many times before. He's just an absolute magician with the violin. But in particular, Red is the Rose. It was one of those, and I guess it's the Harnum in me, because I mean, anybody from Winterton will know that it's my mom who's a Harnum. That's the Winterton connection.
Yeah.
Some of the Harnums, my grandfather in particular, and one or two of my uncles have been known to get emotional at times when emotions run high. And when I first heard it, I was like,
yeah.
Okay, I made it through, And it was that kind of a moment for me, and I was like, because you don't just hear the song at that point. You can envision a story. You've often talked to me about singing songs being like painting a picture or telling a story, and I'm not hearing the song. All I'm seeing is Courtney as a little girl, how I remember you too, because I mean, I remember you being much smaller, of course.
You do know I'm an emotional person. Like, I'll be volunteering.
Yeah, well, hang in there. We're the recording about this on. No, but like, I'm hearing you singing as a little girl, and I'm like, I can picture your dad as a much younger man too. And it's no knock on it. We're all getting older, but I mean, when I grew up in Winterton, it was 30 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was 10 years old, that's when I got these memories of you being a little girl and singing, or 10, 11, 12 years old, and your dad playing at all the festivals and rec centers. So I'm seeing that progression in the song and hearing it, and then thinking about my own kids, which is what makes it the worst. Because when you become a parent, everyone knows that changes everything.
Oh,
I was like, I hope my kids love me as much as Courtney loves her dad, right? So yeah, no, it's a very special song, and I'm so glad you chose to do it that way. Because, and the other part is, when we selected you to be the first artist for Silly Cove Records, I had no idea how artistically inclined you are, and that's the only compliment you're going to get from me on this podcast, because I like to tear you down more so than build you up. But artistically, that's it. That's all you're getting. I was really surprised at the decisions you made and the choices you made and why you made them to make this album what it turned out to be. So that was one of my favorite choices. It's still, I get the pleasure of listening to this album every other day on my drives back and forth to work, which no one's heard yet other than you and Greg. And it's still one of my go-to songs. I'll be in the car and I'll be turning the radio up and I'm singing along. That's the one song on the album that I sing along every word with, and I thoroughly enjoy it. So again, you guys are going to want to keep a lookout for that one. That'll be one of the ones I think that raises a few eyebrows for sure.
I should look, actually, because this concert I'm talking about used to be aired on like not Eastlink, but what was it before, Persona or something, on the like the community channel, and it
Yeah.
was on a couple times. So I don't know where you'd find it now, but like yeah, like it is
It
somewhere.
it exists. Yeah.
It do exist. Maybe someone's listening. They're like, I have it.
That would be. Listen, if anybody out there in internet land, I have no idea if this podcast is going to continue to be well received after episode one, but episode one was incredibly well received.
Yeah.
Partially because, listen, we're a bunch of Newfoundlanders and we're a bunch of busybodies, and everybody wants to know what's on the go, right?
Yes. That's
Which
right.
is the purpose of podcasts. We're letting people know what's on the go. So everyone kind of got their fill of, what's on the go at Trinity Hall and Silly Cove Records, and the why behind
Mhm.
Greg Wells, I think, became very apparent in that conversation. And
Yeah.
I've had a ton of great feedback. The amount of personal messages I've received that said, Ryan, what a great podcast. We really enjoy it. Can't wait to see, what you do next. We'll be watching. We subscribed, all that good stuff. So I don't know if it'll continue on, but so far so good. We're creeping up on 1,000 views on our first episode. If anywhere near that watches the second episode and knows where this piece of videography might be of Courtney singing in our
Andrews might have some idea. We'll have to.
I
Yeah.
can't imagine. I can't imagine how much video Bob Andrews has at his disposal. Which I mean,
St. Patrick's Day, let's say like 98. I don't know. 98, 99. Right
there you
there.
go. So how old were you then?
I was 5 or 6. No
Yeah.
older. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I figured because I would have been in junior high. Yeah, again, I'm dating myself. There you go. So I'm about 10 years older than you. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Hopefully someone comes through on that. That would be great. And because you know what? Something that we're doing at Silly Cove Records that hasn't been done before in Winterton? We're making music videos. And
Right.
wouldn't it be wonderful if we ever did a music video for Red as the Rose and we could incorporate both?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Cool.
that would be cool. So let's talk about that.
Next part a little bit different now because I think I remember watching it. I'm like, little girl, heart, like her, like HART, heart. Like that's how I said it. It's so funny. Like I hope the video can be found. It's hilarious.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the music video. So, as part of this process, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but I mean, this is again, it's a podcast, not scripted. We're just rolling with it here.
Yeah.
So, part of the process that we've been through after the album's been made, I wanted to make sure that we had a song to release up front, which we did, and we released "The Water Is Wide," which again, 10,000 views on YouTube, phenomenal. There's artists that are in Hollywood who drops a music video who don't have 10,000 views in their first 2 months.
Yeah.
Incredible the response that song's gotten, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even a music video; it was a slideshow.
Yeah.
To the music. So part of my plan for rolling out the album was to do a full-fledged music video for our second release prior to your album release party, which hopefully will come in the next couple months, maybe after the snow. But in any case, we won't tell you what song it is, so don't drop that.
No.
But let's talk about the process. So I called you and said, "Want to do a music video?" And you said, "Yep." So that's as complicated as that conversation went.
Yeah.
Then we reached out to Center City Productions, which is a company owned by two gentlemen, one being Brad Tuck, who you know quite well. I mean, Brad's closer to your age too, isn't he? He would have been.
He's probably 3 or 4 years older than me, but like
Yes.
he was around because I remember him like in Christmas concerts and stuff. Yeah.
So again, Brad Tuck from Hants Harbor, phenomenal musician, even better songwriter. One of the better songwriters, I think, personally, and I'm totally biased. One of the better songwriters on the island currently. He's 100% that next generation of Newfoundland traditional musicians, along with our young Miss Wicks here, hopefully. If all goes well. Maybe we'll sell some records, hopefully.
Maybe one.
I'm going to buy one. You're going to buy one.
Buy the second one.
So there you go. But yeah, Brad's phenomenal. He's been playing in a band called Fairgale for what must be a decade now. I don't know when they first got together, but it was a long time ago. One of his counterparts, piano player, songwriter, guitar player, Stephen Green from the band, they formed Center City Productions, focusing on the visual arts. So they got it on both ends. I reached out to Brad and said, "Brad, this is something we want to do. Here's the concept of what we're doing at Trinity Hall and Silly Cove Records. Would you guys like to get involved? And he said, unequivocally, without a hesitation,
Yeah.
yes, 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 we would love to help. So we set a date. And when you set a date, you keep the date. Now,
We kept the date.
leading up to the date, we have a lot of stuff going on at Trinity Hall. Even as late as today, I was over there today, crawling around under the church. Believe it or not, I only just got back and had my supper, and now we're chatting. But massive renovations ongoing, electrical service. We've got heat pump going in. We've got construction in the main stage area. Bathroom doors, emergency exit doors going in. It's insane what's happening with that building, and I'm so pleased to see it get new life. Anyway, whole other topic. Mm-hmm. Thing being, when we set our date, because Stephen, who does the video work, he does the camera work, Brad does the editing, so Brad didn't have to be there, Stephen did. Stephen was only available certain days, and he gave me a couple to choose from. I picked one. He said, the week after that, I'm not available. I said, okay, fine. Well, we'll do it on January the 30th, 29th.
29th, yeah.
January 29th. And he said, yep, no problem. I'm not available. I'm away in for a week after that, so it's a great time for me. The electricians started disconnecting the electrical to the building to upgrade our electrical panel on 24th. Mm-hmm. So when we got to the church that day, and we kind of knew it was going to happen because there had been no power for 3 or 4 days and no real prospect of being power in the next 2 or 3 days, we were geared up and we said, you know what? Let's do this anyway. We got no electricity. We'll hook up a generator for power, and we'll get candles for mood and lighting and see where it goes. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be the story that'll be told from the music video. But what was your takeaway from the experience of being able to hear your own music and then hear it and see it?
Well, I've never made a music video before, so that was complete new experience in itself. I had no idea how they did it, and like played the music and sang it or whatnot and recorded it. So like that was just amazing. Going into it, like I just pictured, prior to not knowing there was any heat or any electricity, like even on the album, like I wrote, picture you're sitting in Trinity Hall in a candlelight setting and whatnot. Like that's actually written on the album, like when you open it up. So like this is what I had envisioned for the music video. And maybe it's luck that there was no power, but like it did turn out like that, and like exactly what I had in my mind, that's how it turned out. And I just think it's so beautiful and raw and rugged, and I was just gonna let something slip, but yeah, it goes hand in hand.
If you let it slip, I'll cut it out.
That was pretty close. I was like,
zip it up.
Yeah,
nope,
but
that's and that's so true, because to me, I'm a sucker for a good story anyway. That's to me, when I hear songs, I love to hear the story behind the song. I'll listen to a song forever and love the song. Then I'll hear the story about why and how the song was written, and then it's whole on love affair with that song again, right? One of my favorite artists growing up was Colin James, because I'm a big blues rock fan. And Colin's got a bunch of great rock hits, but 5 Long Years was one of his biggest hits. Plays on the radio all the time on K-Rock. And he was, I think, was 18 when he wrote the song. And, he talks about, being in love with this girl, but she's not in love with him. And then he runs into her in Mexico 3 or 4 years later and sees her happy. And so he explained that song at a concert that I went to one time, explained the rationale and the reasoning behind it. And now I cannot unhear that when I hear the song, right? Exactly. So no, it was a real special experience to.
It really was.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I got to be a part of it in a small way. Big shout out during the whole process. Huge shout out to Carrie Pitcher. Who came out and did hair and makeup, made you look your best.
Did so good. Yeah. She did a really good job, and everyone just pulled together. Like even when it was said, that we're probably not going to have power, we're not going to have heat. Like everyone was like, just came together and made it work. And even though like poor Rowan couldn't even, I think he went to text his wife at one point, and his thumbs wouldn't work, and here he is like
playing fiddle.
And Kevin was over there like his fingers didn't work either. I didn't have to use my fingers, so like yeah, but you know what I mean. It just was so nice to see everyone pull together and just make something so magical happen.
My favorite part of the whole thing, the whole process, I stood back at one point. It was like, again, I helped with setup, I helped with whatever I could. But obviously, once things start moving, I'm standing by watching and taking a few pictures and whatever. Um, I stood back at one point. I looked around the room, and you were on stage singing. Kevin Harnham was playing the piano. Carrie Pitcher was stood to my right. She was hair and makeup. Mandy Norris was sitting on a bench listening.
Yeah.
And myself, all with that Winterton tie, all with that connection to home. None of which really lived there currently, So we all have that strong connection to home, and all from different little parts. Carrie drove out from, I think she was in CBS or Paradise in there somewhere. Yourself, you're living in Victoria now, right?
Yep.
I'm over in North River, over by Bay Roberts. Kevin, he recently just built a house in Winterton, but he's between, St. John's and Winterton, and seeing everyone have that connection to home and coming back home to do something so special as what we did, I think, again, because I'm a sucker for a story, is what made that whole experience complete for me. So
yeah, same.
And that's very much, I think, what Silly Cove Records has become in a way, is that we've got people pulling together. So I was chatting with Rhoda, and she's the chairperson for Trinity Hall Board of Directors. And she's been doing some research. We found an old window under the church, and that's been a point of conversation for us for the last week. It was mentioned in the first podcast. But anyway, in Rhoda's travels to try and gather some information, do some little research on her own, she's been talking to some of the elders from the church who have memories of their grandfather, or heard stories of their grandfather or their husbands at a young age who helped with the construction, right? And while a lot of people don't understand, Port Newfoundland, is all these churches that you see popped up all around, they weren't built on money. They were built by men going in the woods, cutting wood, bringing it out, milling it down, donating their time to construct the church, all volunteer hours to make that building that's stood there now for 120 years. And the women she talked to got very emotional about the fact that their loved ones had donated so much time to make sure this building existed. Yeah. And in a weird way, I kind of feel like we're all doing our part now with our volunteer hours to make sure that that building lives on.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the ultimate special thing here, is that I'm sure somewhere above, or whatever is out there in that land of the next life, someone is looking at this and saying, you know what, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and that I had that kind of aha moment during the making of the music video. Like I said, when I looked around, seeing everyone who'd moved on to careers and jobs and other lives, but still managed to find their way home. Oof.
Yeah.
You should write a song about that.
That's the song waiting to be written.
Yeah, write it down.
All right, hold on.
But yeah, no, it's special indeed. So
yeah,
why don't we, because we're dropping some information, we gotta keep people interested in the podcast. Give me two more songs that are on the album, because no one else knows other than me and you and Greg. So what are two songs?
Okay, so Carrick Fergus is another, which I absolutely love it. Again, like I'm all about the story and just the story and the picture that it paints when I'm singing the songs. And
that's an old Irish tune, right?
Old, yeah. And my sister, she always sang it, and that's kind of where I got the idea to. Like I heard it years ago, and I always kind of sang along. It's only like the past couple of years that I started, singing it myself. But it was, like I said, a song that I always knew, and it's just so nice. I love it. Yeah. And another one, the song for Newfoundland. Buddy Wass's named the other fellers, and Wayne Chalk wrote that one actually. So yeah.
I understand, because you told me this early on. I'm just going to fill everybody else in, that you had received permission to record that song a long time before you met Greg Wells or had any indication you would actually. So how did that come about? You sang the song somewhere and somebody heard it, or you decided, go on, tell me the story. I'm not going to surmise.
Okay, so funny enough, like probably Like you don't know what I'm gonna do. Anyone that knows me, like I'll get an idea in my head. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do it. I mean, it's only try. If it don't work out, not invention, nothing gain. If it works out, great. So, like probably maybe 5 years ago, myself and Jeremy Harnum decided we were gonna record a song. So, he's always into that. So he's like, yeah, come over, let's try it. So we did end up recording a couple songs, or one song, sorry. And like it didn't turn out too bad. And so I called into the Irish Newfoundland show and was like, can you play my song, please? So they did play it a couple times when requested. And anyway, so I'm like, we need to do another one. And I just loved the song for Newfoundland, and I sang it like so many times. So I'm like, I'm just gonna email him. So I just found his email on the website. I emailed him, and like we got chatting, and he said, "Sure, go right for it." So flash forward to now, I actually got a chance to record it because I never ever did. Myself and Jeremy Heron, I'm like, we just did that one song. It was like a one take wonder, and so it's just so nice to see that now I got a chance to do this song. And actually, I ended up losing access to the old email that I used to have. So I wrote him again recently, and I'm like, hey, I was formerly Courtney Brothers. Like I wrote you a few years ago about the song for Newfoundland, and he remembered, and he wrote me back and was like, yes, go right ahead. Like you have my permission, and can't wait to see what happened. So hopefully they're happy with the results. I actually sang with Ray Johnson at the Christmas concert that he had at the Sheila Nagara just this past Christmas, and we did Angels in the Snow, and it was like so nice. Yeah, it turned out good. And it was me and Chad Hunt and a few people playing different instruments behind. It was really pretty. Yeah. So hopefully I don't let them down.
I know you won't. It's there were several songs that Greg was adamant that he didn't really care which songs. That's not the thing. He wanted to hear the songs and then decide. There were several songs he said, I want to make sure this album is raw as raw gets, where it's just the sound of Courtney in this beautiful hollowed out building with her guitar. And that was one of the songs that he wanted to not overdo. Let's not dress it up. Let's just sing it. And it turned out wonderfully. And I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy it. It's probably, I guess it's probably the only Newfoundland song on the album. Am I correct in saying that? Because most everything else got Celtic ties and Irish ties. Mm-hmm. That's a fun piece in that sense as well.
It is. It's a bit more, upbeat, up tempo. Yeah. A lot of the other ones are more, finger picking style, a bit slower, mellow. That one's a bit more upbeat.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you mentioned Jeremy Harnum in that last thing. I just realized that he's the one person I didn't mention when we talked about the video. We got to give him his props too, because when looking around the room, he was there as well because he was working with Stephen at the time. Jeremy offered his assistance because he's again on the Trinity Hall board, and he's a professional photographer and a music artist himself. Also going to be a Silly Cove Records recording artist. Jeremy came in to take some still photography, but ended up going full on videographer along with Stephen Green, and he did a lot of what I've learned is called the B-roll in video production. So while Stephen is shooting you primarily and the big money shot close-ups and all that good stuff, Jeremy might be recording piano keys, the hands of the fiddle player, candles, whatever, all that other stuff that makes the production amazing. And again, mad props to Jeremy, who again another guy with Newfoundland ties, who he's went away and went to university and done his thing. He's oddly enough like one of the best axe throwers in the world. Like how that came. Anyway, I'll talk to Jeremy about that
too. Like this is why we're friends, because we just try these like different things, and he just completely exceeds. Like he was amazing at he started doing like slacklining or something like a few years back, and he was like killer at that. And then all of a sudden he's throwing like tomahawks, and he's like the best in the world, and going to Texas, and
Listen, he didn't get the talent from me. Me and Jeremy are first cousins, and I had his job to tie my shoes on a good day. And I looks at Jeremy like, man, I hates you, man. Like I like seriously got mad on hate for the guy for the amount of talent. I mean, I love the guy. Obviously, he's my cousin, and he is absolutely the best. But man, is he ever talented at everything he does? It's sickening.
If he says he's going to do something, he's doing it. Like, and he's doing it well.
Doing it well. So speaking of people who are multi-talented and that I hate, Courtney Wicks, you're also a published children's author. So
Yes.
for anybody who doesn't know, I want to talk about that because we got you here, and I'm going to share the link. Then you'll hear through the magic of television. I'm going to make it appear here. All right.
Yeah.
But there's a link there where if anybody wants to buy a book or order a book for their child, Courtney, again, published author. Go ahead and explain, please, because I'm curious as well as anybody.
Yeah, so another thing, like it was in my mind for a few years that someday I wanted to write a children's book. So after I had my second child, in that summer, I was like kind of home a lot and, not going far. And I'm like, okay, so if I were to write a book, like what would it be about? And it just kind of took off from there. And I'm like, okay, so like it's not a bad story. Let's see about getting it illustrated. Like I didn't really expect it to go far. I ended up teaming up through, social media and stuff and found this girl named Happy Lee who lives in the Philippines. And she actually illustrated the whole book. I had a few interviews with different illustrators from all over the world, but her images were just really whimsical, colorful, and I thought it would be really appealing to children because, children's book, you got to make sure the children want to read it and look at it and see the pictures. So
I love your business model. That's a great business model.
Yeah, well, I'm not going for the parents. I'm going for the kids. And that's why I go with the unicorn headband to all the craft shows and everything, right? And it just kind of went from there. And actually now it's Kate's Magical Playdates. It was released last May. We got 800 books sold, which is way beyond what I anticipated because you said published. I'm self-published. So this is all on my own doing. I've been going to different stores, bringing in my books. I had a local printer, Bowmark Printing in Spaniards Bay, who printed the books for me.
Wow. Cool.
I did all the barcodes, whatever you see, like besides for the pictures, like I made sure it all came together. I had no idea what I was doing. It's a complete like learning curve for me, but so I got 800 books sold, and that's mainly on the Avalon. They're in 10 different Newfoundland public libraries from here to Stephenville. So the second one we're working on right now, I've got it written and it was edited, and now she's working on the illustrations. So I'm hoping it will be ready to be released this fall. It is a second edition of the Kate's Magical Playdates. And it's going to be a 3-part series. And I've got another book written, which I'm hoping I'm going to illustrate myself. I don't know. And we'll see how things go in the future. But it's just like, besides for the sales and besides for, how many books, are in people's homes, like it's when kids come up to me and they're like, it's my favorite bedtime story, or they're like, are you a real unicorn, or stuff like this. Like it makes it all worth it. And like even with Literacy Day, there was a couple kids who dressed up as Kate from Kate's Magical Playdates, and they sent me pictures. So like that makes it all worth it. See, I am emotional. I'll start crying now. But it's just like a feel-good thing, which kind of relates back to Trinity Hall, because you're doing it because you just got this passion and this drive, and it's like a feel-good project all around. So yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think see how I started to get faster as I got excited. So
yeah, I can see that. Not unlike you're strumming the guitar sometimes.
Yeah.
Stomping her down.
Yeah.
Slow it down. No, it's and that hearing you tell that story, I mean, because again, I got the inside track on the album. Lucky me. That all rings through in your song selection, the way in which you watching you sing these songs is almost a spiritual thing because I can see you're not just singing a song because you said, I think I'll sing that song. These
Mhm.
songs, each and every one of them, I can tell there's a
Right.
reason, there's a story, there's something because I can see it in your face.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know if you want to elaborate on your your reasoning for choosing the songs you chose, or how you prepare yourself to perform. But that's what I'd love to hear.
Yeah. Well, it goes same thing hand in hand. Like when I wrote the story of Kate's Magical Playdate, like I truly envisioned every aspect. And I told the illustrator every detail of what I wanted. And I feel like it goes to the songs. I truly envision every detail of these songs and like the stories behind it. So with another song, which is on the album called The Dutchman. I sang that song. I think I started singing it in the Kiwanis Music Festival, like probably grade 10, 11. So I've been singing it ever since. And like, I truly, when I sing it, like, I truly see this feeble man and he's walking up this cobblestone path with his wooden shoes on and his loving wife who's been there for years like linked into his arm and like it says about how she sees their unborn children in his eyes and like I truly picture it. So when I'm singing it, like I try to somehow pass what I'm seeing to others, so they can feel the music just as I do. And I feel like I did that with every song on the album. And I feel like that I'm doing a lot of feeling, but like that is how
I
I
think I
see
think that's the
songs.
album though. The album is all feels, right? It's 100%.
I am 100% feels like I sing songs that I I feel that way. And I don't know if I ever won't. You know what I mean?
You
So,
know, one of the quotes, because very early on, after recordings were done, and Greg was on his way back to, well, actually he left here and went to London.
yeah.
He was editing some of the work, doing some of the legwork, like in London, and flying back to when he finally got back to LA is when he done the final mix and mastering of the album, and we pounded out a whole bunch of stuff that last night before we released The Water Is Wide. But I remember
Mhm.
him saying to me, he said, because I'm just immersing myself in whatever Greg is willing to pass on. I'm
Right.
quite obviously I ask a lot of
Oh,
questions, hence why I started the podcast.
yeah.
Um, I asked him, what his vision for how he wanted it to sound. Because is it going to
Mhm.
sound like Rob Zombie, or is it going to sound like you know
Yeah.
something completely the opposite? So, um, he said, what I want it to feel like. He said after having met Courtney, met her husband, met her family, listen to her describe how she, like you just did, how she likes to perform her music. I want the listeners to be able to feel like it's just a big old bear hug. That's what
Mhm.
it is. And
Right.
after listening to his mix and master, nail on the head is all I can say. He's one of the best in the world for a reason, and we joked very early on, still do, that you and Katy Perry have the same producer. Like it's so left
Yeah.
field for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm sure yourself, it's got to be a pinch me moment. Which is what I want to close the show. This is completely the opposite. It's not podcasting 101 would be like, Ryan, what are you doing? But this is how I
Yeah.
do it. So live with it. All right. So I want to go right back to the beginning. We're going right back full circle and let's talk about, because it's a funny story. And I like to end with a funny story. So someone says, there's people going to be making records in Winterton, maybe somebody, whoever, whatever. You should record something. Please go ahead and tell the story.
Yeah. So all of a sudden one day, Jackie Jacobs, like near and dear to my heart, no, I've known her a lifetime. Everyone who knows her knows how hilarious she is. She's just such a good person all around. I sang at her wedding, and apparently her and Steve, they're fans. So she messages me out of the blue, and she's like, "You got to send in a song. Like, there's a man named Greg Wells. He's taking submissions." Like, she sent me the post, and I'm like, okay, thank you so much. Like, I'll have a look. And I looked at it and I'm like, maybe I will. So I thought about it for like a week. and this is like, people probably don't believe me that I didn't know who Greg was. Like, I didn't. And I told him that. Like, I had no idea who he was. So I just thought this was a thing that, like, he was setting up shop. You would go pay to produce an album or a song or what have you in the story. So I'm like, well, forget. Like, mom and dad always wanted me to do it, always wanted me to record an album. And I didn't have the opportunity. And it just seemed like, well, they're in Winterton now. There's no excuse. And like, when I say they're, like, the record company or whatnot, I'm like, so this is a good opportunity. So I'm in the kitchen Sunday morning, came in my mind. I think Ryan might have been gone to like a fireman meeting or something like that. And the kids were there, actually gone, like, whoo-hoo. They were screaming, they were crying, they were doing it all. And I'm like, can we just give me a second? Give mom a second, like, please. So I take the phone, throw it down, pancakes are frying in the pan, kitchenette. And I'm like, saying a couple things, attached to an email, sent it to the thing. And then I said, if it's no good, look on Facebook. There's a couple videos.
You know what the best part is?
It's
I have those recordings.
Yeah.
So at an inopportune moment, I'm probably going to release this so that everyone can have a good chuckle. Probably at your CD release party, because it is fundamentally the most Courtney Wicks thing possible. Like, I'm pretty sure you can hear the stuff frying in the background too.
Oh, probably so. And like, I had no idea, because I just thought, I didn't know really that they were like looking for talent. Like, I thought they were just, when I'm saying they're, like, again, Silico Records, Greg, whatever. I just thought, again, you were going to pay to make an album. So, like, you know what I mean? I really truly didn't know the extent of it all. And anyway, I'm sure he was like, this poor girl, like, someone help her.
Well,
so anyway, it's so funny, but it all worked out in the end. And then it was just a little cherry on top, because you said, like, I was better than you thought I was. So it worked out.
and listen, I got fond memories of you singing to begin with. And I was ecstatic when I seen you had sent an email. Mm-hmm. When I opened up said email and could hear the youngsters crying in the background, I was like, yeah, this is probably not going to fly. But the beauty is, because Greg being Greg, he's incredibly busy. That's why he brought me in to be head of A&R. Now, first thing I had to ask, and this was he said, would you like to be head of A&R for Silico Records? I said, sure. What's A&R? So he must have been like, who are these people? You know, the gene pool must be ankle deep where these people live, right? Which is probably actually not that far from the truth. But anyway, it is out Port Newfoundland. But yeah, like, and to your point, and by the way, anyone who doesn't know, A&R is artists and repertoire. And my job as head of artists and repertoire is to find artists, and we can develop our repertoire of what the label is going to put out there. So Greg forwarded all these emails to me, and I mean, there was a lot of emails, and there was some good talent. There was I shouldn't say something. There was a lot of good talent. I mean, Newfoundland is just flush with talented people.
It really is.
But when I opened your email, I was looking for a reason. I was saying, Ryan, don't do this just because she's from Winterton. Do not do this just because she's from Winterton.
Yeah.
Find something wrong with this. And despite the youngsters, and despite the pancakes, and despite the crappy cell phone, I mean, you're talking about recording yourself on a 10-cent microphone, right?
Send it to
a Hollywood producer. So
like you would.
Like you would. Why wouldn't you? Despite all this, it sounded great. So I said to Greg, I gave it a day or two, went through everything. I said, listen, I don't know what your vision is. I'm all about the story as well, but this is not about the story for me. It helps that it is a great story, but listen to this girl's vocals and tell me if I'm way off or not, because this was my first attempt at this too. This is like, since then, Greg's told me I'm like an amazing A&R guy. He really likes my choices and selection and everything else, but right off the bat, I'm like, Courtney, with her kids, and he was like, yeah, no, I really dig her vocals. They're different. They're special. She sings with emotion, and I like it. What's her story? And I said, well, she grew up, and that's why I said a stone's throw from the church. She's she's your typical out around. She's a bad girl. I mean, if she wants to drop an F-bomb, she will. But she'll sing her kids to sleep just as quickly. She's talented. Da, da, da. I gave him the whole shooting match, and he's like, "Yep, let's do it." I was like, "What do you mean, like let's do it?" He said, "Yeah, ask her if she wants to record a record." I was like,
Yeah.
"Alrighty." So that's when I got off the phone with him and called you, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you
again,
called me and like then literally you hung up the phone. I get like a message request from Greg. He's like, Yahoo! And I'm like, oh my God. So then I Googled Greg and then he's like, let's get on Zoom in a couple hours. And I'm like, okay, like actually heart was beating in my body. I'm like, what is going on? But I am so thankful for, the whole process. I think it all turned out really well. And like Greg was saying about, I should work on some songs for a second album. So like I'm going to be writing with Chris Kirby in the near future.
mm-hmm.
And I'm just excited to see how everything goes. And I'm taking it as it comes and excited, like just enjoying it. Yeah.
I want to close on this note, I think, because it jumped off the page to me, I'm sure, just as much as you. And this is no knock on your talent because I don't want it to sound like that. But we were having a three-way conversation with Greg, and Greg made the point that if you decided you wanted to do this professionally as a career, that's a viable option for you at your talent level.
Yeah.
I was just like, because like part of this whole thing, obviously in its initial inception was, okay, maybe this guy is just throwing us a frickin' bone here. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Pardon the pun, but like maybe he's just like, let's just toss some scraps to these poor newfies and let them record some stuff and feel special. But that's not what this is at all.
No, it's not.
He's looking to do something at a level, like he says, a level of excellence. One specific thing at a time, and do it at a level of excellence that the world can appreciate. And he wants, when we do things, when we record things, when we make music videos, everything, he does it with the international body in mind, that people are going to hear this around the world. And and when he said that and continued on to say, not just in Newfoundland, but internationally, people are hungry for your style of music, I was blown away. And I'd like to know what your take on that was, because you're not speechless very often.
No, I was truly blown away because he randomly messaged, I believe, our group chat and was like, Courtney, I want to give you some $1 million advice. I'm like, okay. And then he said like exactly what you just said. And I was completely speechless and I had no idea what to even write back. But like, even just, maybe nothing will come of it. I don't know. Like, but I told him I will give it my 110% and I will try my best. That's all I can do. So yeah, then I ended up after that, really like the wheels started turning because I have never written a song before. I've written children's books, not a song. And I am creative. I just need some direction. So Greg said about, sending stuff back and forth to him if I ever wanted him to have a look at stuff. And then I got chatting with a few friends, and my friend, Peter Green, you can find him on Instagram, Peter Green Audio. He's worked with like Tim Baker, the Inner Sisters, Alan Doyle. Like he's really good. So I'm like, did you ever write a song? He's like, no, but I'm actually on I think it's the CP holiday train, and Chris Kirby sat next to me, and he is like a professional songwriter and he would love to write songs with you. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, awesome. And yeah, I was talking to Chris last week and he's all game for it. And in the next couple months, we're going to give it a go and see what we come up with. So yeah. Just amazing things all around.
I'm so excited because, again, as creative and talented as you are with everything that you're good at, this will give you a chance to explore something different and try something different. And like I said, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, and I don't really know if that matters. You know what I mean? In the grand scheme of this, I don't really know if that matters. And to be honest, we're gonna print some CDs, and if we sell 10, I'm super proud of those 10. If we sell 500. I'm super proud of those 500. So I'm not really sure the outcome matters at this point. I'm just really happy with how things went. I'm happy to have reconnected with you. Obviously, I think we've grown a friendship, a special one, really quickly again. So that
Yeah.
in itself to me is worth a lot, and being able to get back in touch at home. I'm over home frequently, but not nearly as frequently as I have been lately. So
Mhm.
all that stuff to me, the outcome of all this doesn't matter nearly as much as those experiences that are coming along with this, and we're only just getting started. We're only just
Yeah.
getting started. We haven't been a year, you know.
Unreal. And there's so much talent to come and so many stories to come. And it's just like a wild ride. And like I said, take it as things come and enjoy it. And you said about like selling 10. If I sell one, I just enjoyed the process so much. Like none of that matters. It's like the books. Like none of it matters. You know what I mean? As long as the people who are involved are enjoying it and having fun and making memories. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. I think on that note, we knock it on the head. If you've enjoyed what you've heard here tonight, great. You can get us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. That's for the audio. If you didn't like what you heard, well, in Courtney's words, you can pack off. I won't tell that story, Courtney. I'll leave that one for
Oh my God, I'll be grounded again.
as you as you can tell, we laughed a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you enjoyed the video
On
feed,
TikTok, I'm putting like video covers up all or the music covers up all the time.
yeah, follow her
Courtney.
on TikTok.
Yeah.
Again, here's Courtney's link, TikTok.
If there's any
Um,
new stuff coming out or whatnot, like I'll update you there.
yeah, absolutely. So you can give her a follow on TikTok. And also, like I said, we got a video podcast. You can search Downey's Bank podcast on YouTube and get us there. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you do to keep up to date on future podcasts and catch up on the old ones. Other than that, you can catch up on everything Silly Cove Records related. That's on www.facebook.com/Silly Cove Records. Last thank you of the evening is to Ms. Wicks for coming on and spending a bit of time with me to have this chat. And she also, if she wasn't talented enough, she designed our Downey's Bank podcast logo and top right corner, the Silly Cove Records logo. She did both for us. So in another life, she was a almost graphic designer. So here you have it. Okay, so before we go, I think it would be, if you're okay with this, I think it would be great to hear a verse from one of the songs. So choose a song. It'd be one of the ones you mentioned already or a different one. I'm indifferent. Choose a tune and talk a little bit about the song and then give us a verse and then we'll close it on that.
So I think The Parting Glass is probably the best one to bid a farewell to everyone. And I truly love it. And lately, at the different concerts and events I've been singing at, this is the last one to close out the set with. And I don't know, just feel good end of the night song. So yeah, so this is The Parting Glass, which is on the album. And it is a cappella, like I'm singing it now. So of all the money that e'er I'd had, I've spent it in good company, and all the harm that e'er I'd done, at last it was to none but me. And all I've done for the want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Good night and joy be with you all.
Fantastic job. Again, thanks for sharing the bench at Downey's Bank.